All right, let's get started. We have a decent pool of individuals. Both Yasmin and I would like to thank you for joining this event from wherever, whichever part of the world you're joining us from. I'll do a quick introduction to the agenda, and then Yasmin is going to introduce herself, and then we'll get right into the content after that. So, as the topic says, our agenda is basically a macro and micro level view of crossover of Gen AI with data operations and with ML operations, and several different steps that are part of that workflow. So we'll do a quick, bigger picture zoom out of how Gen AI, in which different sectors of that workflow is influencing ML operations. From there, we want to talk a little bit about the challenges that the industry is facing across the different dimensions in the point number three. Then we'll go into some specific workflows for data curation, pre-labeling, and then based on those workflows, Yasmin has some interesting case studies from Dataloop, and I have one to share from Digital Divide Data that we'll talk in the subsequent sections. And that should roughly take us about 40-45 minutes into the speaking time. We'll open up for some Q&A. Please use the chat feature to ask us questions, and then we will take it on from there. So I'd like Yasmin to do a quick introduction, and then I'll do one for myself.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Sahil and the DDD team for having me. I'm Yasmin. I'm a senior enterprise CSM at Dataloop. I've been in the AI space for 7+ years. I've seen a ton of machine learning projects during that time. And I've worked with all kinds of teams from seed stage to enterprise, and have seen quite a variety of different projects in that time. So I'm really excited to be here, excited to share what I've learned along the way. I've been with Dataloop now for almost 3 years, so I know the platform inside and out and see how our teams are using it.
Awesome. Thanks, Yasmin, for a wonderful introduction. My name is Sahil. I am the VP of Product and Partnerships at Digital Divide Data. I've been with the company just about a year. I'll complete 12 months December of 2025. My background is more into robotics and autonomous vehicles. So I've led several operations and engineering teams across different organizations. One of the teams that I led for a long time was machine learning teaching team. Basically, was responsible for collection, annotation, and validation of data that trained a bunch of autonomous vehicle data pipelines. So I'm here with Yasmin to talk about how can we support stable data foundations with Gen AI. Honestly, I learned a lot about this topic working with Dataloop and with Yasmin as we are preparing for this content. So we'll share some first principles to balancing generative AI and process automation with how we can efficiently use human in the loop capabilities as a part of the workflow. And yeah, we'll share some learnings, insights. We'll keep it kind of a discussion between me and Yasmin, so it's not really a presentation per se for us to give you guys, but it's more of a discussion that you can, hear and ask us questions. Feel free to ask us questions in between as well, but we'll see if we want to take them during the particular segment or we can line them up at the end. We'll take a call on that. All right, let's do it. Awesome. Yasmin, off to you.
Awesome. So let's take a look at the big picture. As all of you here know, I'm sure, machine learning, Gen AI in general has changed a ton over the last few years, and especially so in the last couple of years. Gen AI has just led a new wave of interest in AI, as you all know, and there are teams still looking for what is the best way to incorporate Gen AI into the workflow. So what we have here is a view of some of the phases in machine learning, from when you get that data to when you're able to curate that data, label it, and then validate it, and then use it for training. And throughout all of these processes, Gen AI can play a role in those. So what you see here is like specific use cases for where Gen AI can be incorporated. And you can see like there's a bunch of different places where we can bring it in. Data's coming in from everywhere. Gen AI has a great role for it to play in that. So just to give you an example, right, when you're bringing in that data, you can generate some metadata around it using Gen AI, or get some more information about it through that. Let me ask you, Sahil, like what are some of the ways that you've seen GenAI incorporated, or how has DDD approached data validation in general?
Yeah, I think this slide is very powerful because it lays out every single step in the workflow, all the way from ingestion to validation of your ML pipeline. So a couple of things that kind of stand out for me, based on some of the recent conversations we are having with the industry or with experts in this field. One is, traditionally, data distribution has been a big challenge. I mean, if you take example of, let's say, autonomous vehicles or robotics, where you have a complex operational design domain, and you need basically a good sample size in different parts of that ODD cluster. Like imagine like a 3D space where you have your data distribution sample. A lot of times what happens is you exactly don't get the distribution you need or the samples you need for training your models. So foundation models now, with synthetic data or like kind of a mixed hybrid data, when it comes to data curation, data embeddings, and pushing that data into your labeling pipeline. That labeling can be a little bit like pre-labeling approach from Gen AI solutions, or it can be some sort of a combination between human in the loop or and then the pre-labeling. But that is a big one. I think that is really changing the way everyone is thinking about how the data curation piece needs to be approached. I mean, just to share another example, gone are the days where we are taking our sensor rigs on vehicles out for hundreds of hours and kind of collecting the exact data you need, and you're kind of at mercy of scenarios that you see in your ODD. Not anymore, right? So foundation models, although not directly kind of a little bit tangent to Gen AI, but still a part of your bigger like language models or your foundation models, stuff like that. The other thing that stands out for me is these little things, like for example metadata auto generation, or sort of using Gen AI for doing the initial labeling followed by human consensual labeling. This has also increased a lot of efficiency in the way we approach projects. So it's not a very standard model anywhere that, okay, you get data, you have n number of people doing the labeling, we follow that by a QA QC. It's a lot more multi-threaded approach between Gen AI in general, and how humans can play a role in kind of finessing that data before a final delivery, for training the model. So Yasmin, these are just some of the reflections, but yeah, happy to share more in the next slide.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, maybe just to give a little context on my perspective, like Dataloop is a platform for managing unstructured data. So we see the data lifecycle from when it's being ingested to when it's being transformed and prepped for annotations, and then through curation and validation. And because the platform supports this breadth of the data lifecycle, we get to see all of the various techniques and help teams incorporate various techniques throughout all of these steps. And it's exactly as you said, Sahil, like it requires agility, knowing when to experiment, going through the process of trial and error, figuring out what works where, and then being able to reap the value of what's available, because it's not a silver bullet by itself. You can't just sprinkle it in and expect results.
Exactly. And one last takeaway I think we both would want to leave with this team is, I think every project is uniquely different. So not all of the things, of course, are going to apply to you when you are kind of building that ideal pipeline. So be open to experimenting what works for your use case. Dataloop, we have been using it for a whole bunch of different projects for a long period of time. Works pretty well for for most of the things that we do, and areas where we need collaboration, we kind of reach out and kind of have that engagement for building those features and so on. But the point is to experiment, because a number of these things are kind of in an early phase for when you actually start the project, but when you get used to it, it really accelerates the rate at which you can deliver your work. Yeah, so that's just a quick takeaway.